Hey guys, welcome to the Kane audio vlog. Now, I've been thinking of doing a video that's maybe a little bit different, maybe a bit more of a story with a reason, and I've been kind of thinking, I'm not sure if I'm good enough to do that. I'm not sure if I can do things like, put together B-roll and animations and fancy graphics and all of that, which I think is really needed to make a good film and a good story. However, there's a story I feel I need to say, and I want to take you on that journey of the 3-act structure, so I can give you the setup, the conflict and the resolution. So you'll have to bear with me while I get through this, because this is my first real attempt. First things first though, this is a vlog. I need a haircut and a shave, so I'll see you in a second. I hate those cuts. YouTubers. Okay, first stop, coffee. Alexa, put the kettle on.
Okay.
It was nice here earlier on. Okay, the sun's back out, got a fresh coffee. So, have you ever noticed that on social media, it's always the worst music producers that are the loudest? And before I go any further on that, I need to add the caveat, there is such a thing as bad music and objectively bad music production. Before anyone chimes in going, oh, but music's just subjective. Well, by any form of measurement, one song can be better than another. So you wouldn't say a 3-minute recording of White Noise takes as much skill or passion or energy as writing Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. You couldn't put them in the same ballpark. So there is absolutely, objectively, good and bad. So it's a bit of a jumbled up story, but I've been producing for 25 years now, and there are still a lot of moments where I start to second guess myself and question, is this right? And I think a lot of us question ourselves, and that's perfectly normal, or so we think. And then you see on social media that somebody is talking about their huge smash hit that isn't a smash hit and is, objectively terrible. But there's actually an explanation for this, and it's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. If, for example, you're beginning a new hobby or a new skill or a new talent, you're trying to learn a new anything. Let's say, for example, you want to learn to play piano, and this is your timeline, the beginning of your timeline, and this is the end goal of your timeline. As you progress, you learn a few things, a couple of scales, and you start to go, this is quite easy, because you're so new to this skill that you can't see all of these things across time that you're going to have to learn in the future. You can't see all of those things. You're only able to see this little element, which gives you the confidence thinking you're 90% there, you're almost done, when truth is you've actually got a whole lot more to go. So when I say I've been producing music for 20 years, I can look back at 20 years worth of knowledge and think, wow, how does anyone start? How does anyone begin producing music in this day and age? Because I feel like I've learned so much in 20 years and I still have so much more to learn. So how are these terrible producers putting out their music and thinking they're the greatest thing on earth when some of us are sat at home going, I don't know if this is good enough. I don't know if this is good enough. And interestingly, I've already recorded the end of this video, which is after the story I'm about to tell. And wait till you see that. So what a lot of this comes down to is perceived ability. Now, at the beginning of your music career, when you're learning to produce music, you won't be aware of all of the skills that you're going to learn in time, which is perfectly natural. But it's at that point you need to be very careful because when you can't see what's coming ahead, your confidence might be too high, and that's where people start to make mistakes. I'll give you an example. I mentioned in one of my AMA sessions recently, somebody asked about getting signed to medium to big record labels, and I gave an example that the first few tracks I sent to Mousetrap didn't get signed. In hindsight, while I was talking about that at that point in time the other day, it occurred to me that actually in hindsight those tracks were probably not up to scratch for the label. They probably weren't quite right for the label, and actually the label made the right choice in not signing those tracks, even though I may have been a little bit disheartened, and I obviously sent them to that label thinking this is absolutely what they're going to want. And it's only with hindsight that I actually developed more skills and more tools and became accustomed to whatever skills were needed for that. And it's only then I'm able to look back and go, yeah, actually, I can understand why they didn't sign those, and that kind of makes sense now. So going back to the Dunning-Kruger effect, essentially, when you are at the beginning, it appears as though people who are actually novice at a skill believe themselves to be near expert, whereas people who are near expert actually believe themselves to be more novice. So that then leads me on to the biggest conflict that I personally have, and I think a lot of other producers have as well, is imposter syndrome. And this is something that I know I suffer from a fair amount, where I get asked to do a remix or I'm signed to a particular record label, and I start to wonder, why have they done that? Why has this record label signed my track? Because I'm listening to other artists on the same label and thinking, those guys are light years ahead of me. I don't understand. And then I start to panic thinking, do they think I'm someone else? Was this a mistake? And I think that's where you then start to second guess yourself, and things can become quite intense at times. Talking of intense, this sunlight on my arms is getting really intense, so let's go back to the studio and we'll talk about a resolution. That's better, right. So while this story isn't necessarily going to give you solid advice on how to become a better producer, I think it's something that needs to be said and needs to be considered by everybody at several stages in their career. So the big question is now, what can you do to avoid becoming one of these bad producers? First of all, I always tell people to look at the rate of improvement that you have as a music producer. So for example, dig out one of the tracks that you made 6 months ago and listen to it right now. I guarantee you're going to hear it and go, oh, this is horrible. This is terrible compared to what I'm doing now. And I think while the vast majority of us go through that exact same feeling, 20 plus years later, and I still have a similar feeling. But when I look back at work I did 6 months ago, I know that it's still perfectly acceptable compared to the work I'm doing now. If I look back maybe a year, maybe 2 years, then I'm still okay with that work. So I know that my rate of improvement has steadied off somewhat. And this is something you can all do on your own. The next thing I'd recommend is just to keep learning. Keep learning, keep learning, keep learning. Try new things, new genres, new equipment. Try different techniques. Look at YouTube videos and see what other people are doing. Incorporate all of these things. Learn as much as you possibly can, because the more you learn, the more you're going to be able to apply and the more is going to stick. And the better your hindsight's going to be. And now for the final resolution. The most important thing I want everybody watching this video to take away is that if you're feeling a bit weird about your own music, if you're feeling you're not quite there yet, then this means you're making progress. And that is the most important thing. It's the moment you start to realise you're not the greatest producer that ever lived, is the moment that you know you're now over that first big obstacle and the self-confidence element has been taken away, and you look at that Dunning-Kruger effect and that is what eventually will make you a good music producer. So here's a little side view of this video. While making this film, which by the way has taken me way too long to do, I guess because it's my first ever attempt at making a decent vlog film type thing that has a story and a narrative and a reason to exist other than just being generally helpful, I've kind of second guessed my every move, and I guess this kind of ties in with exactly what this whole video is about. Right now, as I'm filming this part, I've not even filmed half the film that I know I'm about to do, but already I'm second guessing myself and I'm thinking, is this shit? Is this worthwhile? Is this worth doing? Not in terms of is it worth the effort? I'm enjoying the process, I'm enjoying the effort, that's all fine. I'm starting to wonder, what's it gonna look like in the end? Because I'll give you an example. That B-roll footage you hopefully saw of me making a coffee, that took me about 2.5 hours to make a coffee, and I didn't even drink it because it was a horrible coffee in the end. But the point I'm trying to make is I don't know if that'll even make the final cut, because I'm constantly going, was that good enough? Is this gonna look all right in the end? Is this gonna portray the narrative that I want to portray? And as I've said, I'm not even halfway through filming yet, but I'm already looking ahead at the end and I'm thinking, does this tie in with what I hope will be the resolution? And does that also equally apply to my filmmaking? I hope so. If you think it's been worthwhile, give it a thumbs up, share, comment, like, subscribe, you know the drill, and hopefully I'll do another one soon. Cheers.